run through, you got the control, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Let's just run through them quickly. Then I will select one, actually I have in mind already, and if any of you have, depending on how much time you have, when you look at this list, if there's one that you find interesting sounding, then we can have a look at that one too. So, first of all, some prayers. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasad Buddhaya Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharne Nirvishesha Shunyavani Pastachari Shatarne Vajkamachari Visakri Pasindhubhya Ekasha Paritana Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda who Krishna, most of them he killed, but not all of them. But at least the demons who Krishna encountered in his Vrindavan pastimes, as described in Srimad Bhagavatam. There was a lot more. But, I can just mention, Srila Prabhupada mentions actually in a purport in the 10th canto chapter, I forget, it might be 12 or 13. And Prabhupada mentions there that every day, particularly when Krishna was herding the cows, every day he'd go out and there would be not just one, but 2 demons who he would encounter, and the majority of them he would kill. And Prabhupada mentions that the first demon, generally every day when they're out there herding the cows, the first demon would come in the middle of the day, maybe sort of 1 o'clock or something like that, and attack Krishna, and there'd be a big spectacular battle, and Krishna would kill the demon, and the cowherd boys would cheer, and the demigods would throw flowers, and then they know, aha, time for lunch. Yes, every day was like that. Then they'd have their lunch break, get out their lunch boxes. Then later on in the day, like 3, 4, and 5, say, another demon would come. And again, this big battle and whole spectacular situation. And of course, every time Krishna would kill the demon, and again there's cheering and flowers being thrown from the heavenly planets. And then they know, time to go home. And every day it was like that. And I'm not sure if it's Prabhupada specifically who mentions, but it is mentioned by our acharyas, that if that second demon did not come to alert them that, time to go home, they would not have gone home, because they're having so much fun playing with Krishna. And, they don't want to seem to be like mummy's boys. Because when you're a tough little boy, that's, you don't want to be seen to be a mummy's boy. Yeah. Nothing wrong with the mummies, but that's just sort of the social environment. Right, yes. So, first demon was Putana, and Krishna was maybe 15 days old, or just maybe 3 months at the most, but very young. And you all know that story, I'm sure. Putana represents the anatha. Well, let me just clarify, what does this term anatha mean? Artha. There's anatha and there's artha. Artha means something useful, beneficial, helpful, like that. And anartha means something just useless or even detrimental. Yes, detrimental. And in this case, these demons represent detrimental sort of characteristics of personality or detrimental types of activities. Yes, and Krishna killing the particular demon who's connected with a certain particular anartha. The idea is that this will help to eliminate that particular anartha within us. Because I know you're all very nice devotees. As the Gujaratis would say, you're too nice. Oh, you're Gujarati. Yes, they would say, we like this too much. Yes, okay, anyway. Right, okay. So, and others, each one of us, even though you're very nice, don't hold it against me if I say that I think you may have a few anarthas. If you don't have, or if you think you don't have, it's probably, well, maybe you're just some special soul who descended from Goloka to Gabarone Dam. But I suspect if you think you don't have any anarthas, it's probably you're just not aware enough, not conscious enough of you. Because it's said that if you want to understand you, then it is generally not a good idea to ask you. Because we are prone to be very charitably disposed to ourselves and overestimate our qualities, capabilities, and so on. Yes, and with others, we're prone to overestimate their bad qualities. But everyone has some bad qualities unless they're residents of the spiritual world. Otherwise we wouldn't be here in Botswana. So, yes, it's always good to get objective advice. And here's another one. Here's one to think about. We judge ourselves according to our intentions, but we judge others according to their actions. This is a bit of a wiseism, but it's often true. And oftentimes you find that you do something stupid, and people say, why did you do that? And you say, well, I didn't mean to, I meant to do something else. But then someone else does something stupid, and you don't worry about any explanation they may give in terms of their intentions, what they meant to do, wanted to do, but you just evaluate them in terms of their actions. And these are classical faults and shortcomings of conditioned souls. Right, so on we go. So Putana, anyway, represents the pseudo-guru, who may be a person, means like a misleading type of personality. And it may be just your mind. Your mind, our minds are kind of like gurus in the sense that they tell us what to do and what not to do often. And because we've been together for a long time, then we may feel a certain sort of kinship with our mind, or we may just identify with our mind that this is me, but actually it's another entity. Mind is one of the material elements, and we're eternal spirit souls, so the mind is actually a different entity from us. But one of the problems with the mind is the mind tends to Shri Shri Krishna Balaram, Shri Shri Bodhitai, Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Sadadevi Kita. One of the problems with the mind is, one of the many problems, it tends to have a mind of its own. So, okay, so that's good now. Anyway, we'll just go quickly through this. Shakatasura, who came in the form of a cart, if you remember, represents the tendency to carry a cartload of bad habits and attractions acquired in this and previous lives, may also represent lethargy, like laziness and dullness. Right. Then Trinavarta, the whirlwind demon, represents the false pride arising from material scholarship, which gives rise to bogus philosophies and has a blinding effect like a whirlwind which blows dust around. Yeah, when you encounter these different ideas about life that some people present, then people who could think better and could become devotees if they thought better, they become distracted by the bogus philosophies. Number 4, deliverance of Nalakuvra and Manigriva, breaking the twin Arjuna trees. This is essentially the Damodar Leela, or it's connected with the Damodar Leela. And it represents the arrogant pride from being puffed up by high birth and aristocracy, rooted in madness for wealth. Yes, like the caste system. At least those of you from India, you know what the caste system is. And I don't know what caste you would be. And I couldn't really care, frankly. But my caste, my father was a Dhobiwala. I think that's Sudra. Yeah. So we think that we're important because we were born in such and such a family. Although we may be kind of fairly useless people, but because we're born in a Brahmin family, then we think, yes, look at me, I'm very good. Then number 5 is Vatsasura, the calf demon. And Vatsasura represents an earth is connected with bringing children up in Krishna consciousness and thinking that they're just like cuddly toys and not future devotees, and therefore, thinking that children are for playing with and rather than for training. Then Bakasura, the duck or stork demon, represents hypocrisy, cunning, duplicity, deceptiveness, and false types of behavior. Agasura, the snake demon represents enviousness, cruelty, violence, causing trouble to others out of envy. Then 8 is the Brahma Vimomana Leela. Lord Brahma steals the cow boys and cows. Of course, Lord Brahma is not a demon, and Krishna in this pastime doesn't kill him. Rather, Lord Brahma is a great devotee and he's head of our Sampradaya. But occasionally he is higher than his sweetness. That Aishvarya is more important than Madhurya. Denukasura, the ass demon, represents the load of ignorance, gross materialistic intelligence, ignorance of spiritual knowledge. 10, Kalya, I'm going to talk about Kalya. This is another demon. He really was a demon, but Krishna didn't kill him. Rather, he chastised the Kalya serpent, and he represents a rather nasty, insidious type of anartha, poisoning the hearts of the devotees with poisonous talk about other devotees. Number 11, extinguishing the first forest fire. There were two. He represents intercommunal discord amongst Vaishnavas, between different groups of Vaishnavas, in other words. Number 12, Pralambasura, killing the Pralamba demon. He represents the load of passion and the anartha of having lusty inclinations and desire for personal gain or honor. 13 is the second forest fire, represents the influence of atheism, disruption of religious principles and interference with religion. Atheism. 14, correcting the Brahmins, performing sacrifice, represents the anartha of callousness towards Krishna due to pride because of one's position in Varnashram. And this is connected with one of the earlier ones. Which one was that? The one about, anyway, whichever one it was. The deliverance of Navakupa and Manigrika. Being puffed up because you've got high birth or very aristocratic, because you're very wealthy like that. And this is specifically the Brahmins performing sacrifice. It's specifically about your position in Varnashram. 15, overcoming the pride of Lord Indra. This is the Govardhan Leela. And this represents the anartha of thinking that demigod worship is more important than Krishna consciousness. And this is, with due respect and affection, this is something which is common where? Of course, in Hindu communities, of course. Because, the Christians and people like that, they've got no idea of demigod worship. But, I get around, particularly I still get around a bit, but in my younger days I used to really get around and travel around, visit people, stay in people's houses, devotees' houses. And occasionally I find the family has, like in one of the front rooms, maybe the front lounge, nice Krishna conscious altar. But when you go down the hallway towards where the bedrooms are, it's kind of a bit further back in the house, you find there's a second altar. And there's Lord Shiva and Durga and company. Madraviran, you may not even have heard of Madraviran, unless you're Tamil. And so on. Yes, so becoming confused by thinking that Krishna is not like in a unique position, but he's one of the gods, and there are other gods who are, maybe more suitable sometimes than him. In 16, Nanda Maharaj, stolen by Varuna, the anartha of thinking that spiritual life can be enhanced by intoxication. This This was more for the hippie types. Smoke some marijuana and become more Krishna conscious. Chant your rounds. Actually, some of you may relate to this, but when I first joined 1973 January, there was one devotee in London, in the London temple, who would visit all these big people, like big entertainers, like the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Eric Clapton. He knew these people personally. And one day, he told us, he went and visited Mick Jagger. Have you heard of Mick Jagger? Oh, you have? Oh, that's terrible. I thought you would say, no. I would congratulate you. But anyway, there was Mick Jagger with his chanting beads and bead bag and a marijuana cigarette in the other hand. And he told our devotee, this is the way I like to do it. Yes, indeed. So 17, Nanda Maharaj delivered from the snake represents impersonalism, the anartha. The anartha of impersonalism, and we must rescue the truth of eternal Krishna consciousness, which is if it has been swallowed by impersonalism. 18, Shankachuda, killing the conch shell demon and retrieving the jewels stolen by him, represents a proneness towards acquiring name and fame and desire for sensuous enjoyment under the plea of devotion. Just to say a word, when I was back in those early days, 1973, we had one young brahmachari who liked preaching to the visitors who came to visit the temple. He would be down there for some hours a day, and when people would come from time to time, and he would speak to them as long as they were attractive-looking young ladies. If they weren't, no, he'd sit down and read a book for a while. So we told them, the ladies should preach to the ladies, and the men should preach to the men. And he became a little indignant. Said, Prabhu, I am preaching Krishna consciousness. And unfortunately, it didn't really last so long. 19, Aristasura, the bull demon, represents being influenced by false religions invented by cheaters. Then 20, Keshi, the horse demon, represents the feeling that I am a great devotee and spiritual master. Then number 21, Vyomasura, the sky demon, represents the anartha of associating with thieves and other rascals, like bad association, and with people who've put themselves forward as avatars. So there you've got it, devotees. Hopefully you've managed to jot them down. If not, we can provide you with the list, no problem. Or Keshwananda Prabhu can. He's got the list. Or you can just put it on the webpage, right, or Facebook, whatever it is. Yes, indeed. So there you go. Now I am going to, just have a little look at that list, and I'm going to say something about Kaliya in the seminar over about 3 weeks for an hour a day or so. So obviously in the next, whatever it may be, 45 minutes or something, we cannot do the whole thing. But my idea would be that next time I come here, don't ask me when that'll be, but see what Krishna and Balaram have in mind. Yes, that next time we could do the whole thing instead of doing slideshows, which are, of course they're very nice, but they're kind of a little bit in the mood of Krishna conscious entertainment rather than really being educational in Krishna consciousness so much. So next time we can do like for a week, we could do it every night for an hour or hour and a half. And we could go through all these 21, a little briefly, but it will work out, I'm sure. Yes, is that okay? Is that okay? He says it's okay. So it's okay. Right, so Kali the serpent, represents envy and poison in the particular version of envy, which is involved in poisoning the hearts of devotees with poisonous talk. So just a little bit of background, that Kaliya, just give me a second, open another file, that Kaliya in his previous life, it's just what happened, Kaliya in his previous life, because we've got all this information about who they were in their previous lives, and it's quite interesting. So, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Kaliya represents brutal cruelty, maliciousness, pride, envy, and a snake-like crookedness. He particularly tries to pour his poison into the hearts of innocent Vaishnavas, which Krishna cannot tolerate. So then the Lord kills him, but he didn't kill him, but he banished him. And according to Garga Samhita, in his previous lifetime, during the Manvantara of Swayambhuva Manu at the beginning of creation, he was a sage named Vedashira, who was cursed for not allowing the sage Ashvashira to meditate in his ashram. And Ashvashira said, "You are angry for no reason. You hiss like a snake. Become a snake." Then Lord Vishnu appeared and said that he would place his lotus feet on the head of Vedashira in the same lifetime. So then Vedashira took birth with the first generation of great snakes to appear in the universe. And he took birth from the first generation of great snakes to appear in the universe. And he took birth from Dakshas as a devotee, but he banished him from Vrindavan, wouldn't let him stay there. He sent him out. So he accepted him as a devotee, but not completely. Kicked him out of Vrindavan. And sometimes if someone becomes very envious and nasty and, like that, sometimes this happens to them. They're not allowed to visit the temple for some time, something like that. If they've really created disturbance devotees. Right. Okay, so now, where are we here? Well, the pastime, let me just tell you the pastime. Probably you know that Krishna and the cowherd boys and the calves came down to the Yamuna to drink. And the calves drank, and the cowherd boys, and they all dropped dead. Because this is where, if you're familiar with Vrindavan much, you may know where the Kaliya Daha is. Kaliya Daha is the Yamuna straight out from the Madan Mohan temple. It becomes a lake and then carries on further down towards Agra, down past like the Keshi that area. So that's Kaliya Daha, the lake, Daha indicating lake. So he'd been living there for a long time, we jumped past like dancing at them. So they all came back to life. And Krishna became very angry that this Kaliya, we sort of leave him there in the lake and just don't bother him. But now he's really creating trouble. I must punish him. So there is an old, at Kaliya Ghat, if you know Kaliya Ghat, in Vrindavan town, there is an old, big Kadamba tree with one branch sticking right out, straight out. You may, if you've been there, you would be familiar with it. And they say that this is the original tree that was there 5,000 years ago. And of course, it's hard for us to really say, but in Chaitanya Charitamrita, it says there that when Lord Chaitanya went to Kaliya Ghat, he saw the original tree. So, it's very likely it is actually the original tree. So what Krishna did, the river at that time was running right past where that tree is, and right past the Madan Mohan temple. So Krishna went out on the branch, and he did two things to sort of establish his, bravado and his tough boy kind of profile. He tightened his belt, as wrestlers do, and then he made a funny sound with his arms by sort of flapping his arms. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that. Could someone demonstrate? Shri Krishna Balaram Shri Shri Balatai Shri Shri Jana Baladesh Bhajapani Ki Jai. I will not insist. If we were doing this, when we're like really doing the whole seminar, I would probably insist that one of the boys or one of the girls, because we do not discriminate so much. So he did like that to just show I'm a tough guy. And then he dived into the Yamuna. And when he dived in, he created a tsunami. You know what I mean? Very big wave. How could that be? Because Krishna's a small boy. He's not much bigger than Balaram. Very well, Balaram. That's Balaram, isn't it? No. Oh, it's not. Who's that? No, Yuvan. How old are you? What do you say? Haribol. Oh, Haribol. How old are you? What do you say?
Very well.
Oh, very well.
How old are you?
What is your age?
7.
Oh, you're a big boy. Krishna was a little younger, he was. So Krishna's small boy. How did he create a tsunami when he dived in? Well, the thing is, even though Krishna looks like a small boy, he is not. Everything is in Krishna. This planet, the whole universe, all the universes, everything is within Krishna, even when he's apparently a little boy. And you can imagine if everything landed in a lake, it would make a big splash, wouldn't it? So it made a tsunami. And Kali was out, maybe a kilometer out in the lake, and he heard this amazing splash. And he is known as Chakshu Shrava, means he hears through his eyes. Chakshu Shrava, like Shravanam, hearing. So he heard this, and he thought, who's the rascal who's jumped into my lake? But then the tsunami came and just about wiped him out in surfing language. And so he was really knocked out a bit. And then Krishna swam out. Krishna swam out and just confronted him. But if you know the story of it, Kaliya grabbed him in his coils and held him. Yes. He held him actually for some hours. It's not exactly like that, but he made it seem like that. Srila Sanatana Goswami says an interesting thing. Listen to this. He says that Krishna and Kaliya had not seen each other for a long time. And when you meet a friend you haven't seen for a long time, you may have a very long embrace. And he says this is why Krishna allowed himself to be held. It's a different perspective, but sometimes the acharyas have different perspectives on the same thing. And we shouldn't become confused, but rather we should just, allow them to have different perspectives and be happy about it. So anyway, then after a while, one old man went running back to the village and alerted everyone back in the village. And yes, that Krishna's in great trouble. Now, one interesting point is that Balaram was not there down by the Yamuna. And because this pastime happens on the appearance day of Lord Balaram, he was at home with his mother having a birthday party. Yes, so he was not there. Yes. So everybody though, don't worry so much. But they wouldn't listen to him. And so they all ran out to that place. and saw Krishna there. And, they were really overwhelmed. They were just really overwhelmed. What I'm trying to do, I should have done this earlier. But anyway, I'm going to read to you, if I can find it in time. Yes, look at this. The description given by Sanatana Goswami. Yes. So he says, well, first of all, he raises the question, how did they know where to go? And the answer is, they followed Krishna's footprints. Because even though he had been following the cows, or that the cows had been following him, the cows would never step on his footprints, because they're not just animals, they're devotees. Even Jiva Goswami says in his commentary on Brahma Samhita, he says that these cows descended from Goloka Vrindavan with Krishna to give their mercy to the fallen conditioned souls. So all the forest animals, wherever Krishna walked, they would protect his footprints in the dust. They would never step on them. They never stepped over them, because they regarded them as the highest worshipable things. So his Gopa friends, cowherd friends, became as if they had died. Tormented by the desire to find him, they saw his footprints and followed them to the lake. The cowherd people. When they saw Krishna could not move, his friends fainted. When they could not see him at all because he was covered by the waters, they no longer wished to live. Standing by the shore, the cows, bulls, calves, and other domestic animals from the village, as well as all the wild animals from the forest, they all cried, fixing their eyes on Krishna's face and screaming in agony. Crying pitifully, the birds flew over the lake and dived into the waters. The trees and other plants became dry and withered. Many great calamities happened. So, yes, that's in the village. Then they got out there, and let's see what happened when they got out there. So, everyone fainted. Sorry. I hope you find this interesting. Balaram quickly came to the lake. Seeing his younger brother in that state, he could not remain peaceful, but he cried in the agony of love. He lamented again and again, his cries breaking wood and stone. In a moment he fainted, as Nanda and Yashoda had already done. Then everyone let out a great, painful, terrible cry that made the entire world cry also. Awakened by this great sound, Balaram, the crest jewel of the Soba, with a great effort, regained his peaceful composure. In a moment, Krishna's parents became conscious again. Gazing at their son and crying loudly, they began to enter the lake, but Sri Balaram forcibly stopped them with his hands. Seeing everyone fainted as if they were dead, Balaram became filled with pain. In a voice choked with emotion, he loudly called out to Krishna. Sri Balaram said, "These people are not your associates in Vaikuntha. They're not your monkey associates. They're not the Yadavas. They're the people. They're the people of Goloka. You are their only life and soul. Although they have eternal bodies, they are dying now. Lord, I have no power to save them. They are now lifeless. Merciful Krishna, only friend of the people of Vraja, give up this pastime, or your gentle heart will become filled with grief." That's dramatic, highly dramatic. The only more dramatic thing is when Krishna leaves Vrindavan, and that's really dramatic. So anyway, Balaram is trying to stop them from entering the lake because he knows that it's okay. It's just Krishna's pastime. But he didn't want to tell the Brijvasis that, don't worry, it's just a pastime, because it would interfere with their loving ecstasy. So he wouldn't tell them that. He wanted to protect their relationships with Krishna, loving relationships, and not make them think, oh, he's God, so it's okay, don't worry about it. So then they tried to enter the lake, all these different devotees, to be with Krishna. And Balaram, some of them he's glancing at, smiling at, some of them he's sort of indicating not to do it, some of them he would even say, some of them he would smile at like it's all right. And they're wondering, why is he smiling? How can he smile at a time like this? And then Balaram called out like that. And when he did, then Krishna broke free. And he called the gopis, and he had rasa dance on the heads of Kaliya. And they danced. Most of you from Indian backgrounds, you know what is Bharatanatyam. You know what is Kathak. You know what is Kathak. I imagine some of you have done Kathak or do Kathak. Kathak often involves stamping, really stamping. That's what Krishna was doing on the heads of Kaliya, until Kaliya was almost lifeless. In fact, it says, Krishna danced somewhat excessively on Kaliya's words to increase his good fortune. All his hoods became broken, which indicates he was becoming humbled. He offered prayers within his mind because he was in too much pain to speak. But within his mind he was saying, I am yours, I am yours. So his sort of good fortune was his wives were devotees. He was not a devotee. It's actually mercy towards me. So one who simply thinks like that indeed becomes pious. But for those who continue, even after punishment from the Lord, to envy him, their attitude is the reason for their continuing to fail to recognize him. Because they just can't understand this is God. They think that he's just some ordinary person, something like that. So yes, the anartha is enviousness, and particularly in the form of talking nastily about devotees to other devotees. maybe you even had the experience that someone sort of from the community comes up to you and says, devotee X, such and such. Oftentimes it's the temple president. If not, it's the GBC. That devotee whatever. He's really nice. And so now the devotee listening feels, oh, that's good. This devotee is very nice, but, and then comes the poison. He's like this, and that, and something else, and another thing. Experience of such things. But these things happen even within ISKCON, believe it or not. So what to do? What to do if you hear someone talk like that about another devotee? Well, Prabhupada says in Nectar of Devotion that if someone has heard blaspheming by words, one should be so expert that he can defeat the blaspheming party by argument. If you're unable to defeat the opposing party, then next thing is, don't stand there meekly, you should give up your life. The third process, if you're unable to do either of the first two, is just leave the place and go away. Prabhupada says, if a devotee does not follow any of the above-mentioned three processes, he falls down from his position of devotion. And it's interesting, that's just directly from Nectar of Devotion. He doesn't say the devotee may fall down or something. He just says he falls down. Yes. So what do you do if someone criticizes you? Well, you can take it as an opportunity to become humble. Yes. One needs to become able to tell the difference between constructive criticism. There is such a thing, although it's a bit rare, and destructive criticism, which is more common. Yes. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur is said to have said, he who flatters me is my enemy. He who criticizes me is my friend. And there's a story of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, that he was doing a tour of India by train, and every day they'd stop in the next town, and there would be devotees in all the towns. And they'd do a whole program in the evening in that town, and next morning they'd carry on to the next town. So one night there was one man there who, at the end of the class, he put his hand up and asked a question. But it wasn't like a nice question or, like I'm interested to find out something. It was critical. Why do you do this sort of thing? It was a critical type of question. And the devotees didn't appreciate it, but Srila Bhaktisiddhanta gave him an answer and then stopped. The next day they went to the next town. Evening program, the same man was there, and the same thing happened. And the next night and the next town, same man. And there's like 5, 6, 7 nights, same man is there. And the devotees, they were getting really worked up about it. And they were thinking of, you could say, doing something about it. Call the mafia, or just take it aside and sort it out or something. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta told them, no, don't worry, it's all right. Then one night, the man wasn't there. And they found out the man had died. And the devotees thought, right, let's have a festival, let's have a feast, celebrate. But they then saw Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was crying. And, they couldn't understand what's going on. So they asked him that, this man was such a demon. Why are you upset? And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, actually, he was my friend. He was trying to help me. Yes. So, when someone criticizes you, one way to sort of defuse them, if you get the ideas of get them to stop, is, well, what you don't want to do, if you're being criticized that you're no good because you do this and you don't do that and that sort of thing, then you should tell the person, you can try it, if or when it happens to you, try it, tell the person, listen, you don't actually know how bad I am. You're criticizing me because you think, you're pointing out some bad things in me, but actually I'm much worse than that. I'm much worse. So you just don't know. And then the person may well stop because, what fun are you going to get from criticizing further under those circumstances? So it's definitely an opportunity to become humble. And we must also, if someone criticizes us, we have to take it that this is my karma. Because I criticized in the past, now I am being criticized. Yeah. And if I had not criticized in the past, I would not be being criticized now. And that's actually how it works. And, or maybe someone comes and slaps you. Did anyone ever slap any of you? Someone slapped you once? If you want to know what it's like to be slapped, ask Tulsi Krishna. She'll tell you all about it. So the thing is, you get slapped because you slapped someone before. That's how it works. It's very straightforward. You give good, you get good. You give bad, you get bad. And it works like that. That's karma. So, if someone walks up to you and slaps you, parents or just someone, you must know. Of course, the sort of spontaneous tendency is to think, what a rascal. I'm going to get them back. I'll call the cops or call the temple president to sort them out. Yeah. But you should know that you slapped someone before, so now you got slapped. So what does it mean, in a sense? It means, effectively, you have more or less slapped yourself, actually. Effectively. Because if you hadn't slapped before, you wouldn't have been slapped. So effectively, you have slapped yourself, or punched yourself, or stolen. If someone stole from you, it means you stole from someone in the past. So these are lessons we can learn in regard to this type of phenomenon. And we don't have time, do we, for another one? But let me see. These are some thoughts on the subject. Some thoughts on the subject. We shouldn't criticize, criticize other devotees, because in the future we'll be criticized. And it'll cause us pain. And we shouldn't cause other devotees pain by criticizing devotees to them, because they may then cause us pain later through criticism. Yes. So the thing with this is, like with Kaliya, he was banished. Krishna didn't kill him. In fact, Krishna danced on his head. We read, Bhagavatam says, what does it say? That Krishna danced somewhat excessively on Kaliya's words to increase his good fortune. Because Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, they are praying, when will I get one scrap of dust from Krishna's foot on my head? Just one little speck of dust on my head. That will be the greatest day of my life. But here, Krishna danced and danced and danced. Katak just bang, 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 bang. The mercy is inconceivable, because his wives were devotees. Yes, but still, even though Krishna accepted him as a devotee, that Krishna banished him, threw him out of Vrindavan, and they say he went to Fiji. And Indradyumna Maharaj, if you know Indradyumna Maharaj, he has been to Fiji twice, looking for Kaliya. Because there are local, stories that there's this great snake somewhere in Fiji. Hare Krishna. Any comments or questions? Yes.
I was wondering, how do we know, what if we're not able to identify or understand if it's genuinely constructive criticism? Maybe I'm very sensitive, so anything anybody says to me, I might be like, no, they're personally attacking me, or that it's not constructive criticism.
Yeah, well, if we have, and don't mind me saying it, but if we have sort of, you call it sensitivity, and it's, sensitivity is part of it. But if we are prone to having kind of slightly inflated ideas of our importance, then if anyone just looks at us sideways, then we may feel hurt and say, why are you looking at me? Something like that. But if we need to be in humble states of mind, because then, even if it is not constructive criticism, we won't actually be hurt. But we will take it in a constructive way, and it will help us. Yes, like that. Therefore, Bhaktivinoda Thakur said that he who flatters me is my enemy, and he who criticizes me is my friend. But otherwise, we have to see if the criticism, you have to be able to evaluate pretty quickly. Is the criticism pointing something out which, now I got, the idea from the person that is going to help me advance in Krishna consciousness? Or is this person simply trying to push me down and just feel, like make me lose my Krishna consciousness? Yeah, like that. I don't know if if I mentioned when I was here last time, a story about Jayananda and Prabhupada. Do you remember if you were here? Anyway, Prabhupada was visiting a temple in America, and whenever he would do that, devotees would come sort of from around the region or even other parts of the country to be with Prabhupada, and usually a number of sannyasis and senior devotees would be there. So there was a number of them there, including Tamal Krishna Goswami and Jayananda Prabhu, who you may have heard of. And after Mongol Arati, everyone, at least the second initiated devotees, sat down to chant Gayatri, which normally takes approximately 5 minutes. Yeah, Jayananda Prabhu finished Gayatri in 1 minute. And it is not humanly possible. Even if you're one of these devotees who chants at 100 miles an hour, which is too fast, by the way. You're breaking the speed limit and it just doesn't work to try and chant that fast. So that you can't finish Gayatri in 1 minute, you just can't do it. So when he finished chanting Gayatri, he went to tell Prabhupada. So he went walking over to Prabhupada's room, but the secretary stopped him and said, no. Prabhupada said, no, one should come in for a while. And Tamal Krishna Goswami said, why? And the secretary said, because Prabhupada is giving Jayananda Gayatri. And Tamal Krishna Goswami thought, what? You know, we were just chanting Gayatri. And he and I received Gayatri at the same time some years ago. So what on earth is this? Did I tell this story? No, I didn't. Okay. So out came Jayananda some minutes later, and Tamal Krishna Goswami, he was a character. So he grabbed him and said, what's this? I hear Prabhupada was giving you Gayatri. What's going on? And Jayananda said very humbly, I keep forgetting Gayatri. So every 6 months or so I go back to Prabhupada and he gives me Gayatri again. So then Tamal Krishna Goswami took him into Prabhupada's room and really, sort of flew off the handle. That's Srila Prabhupada. This Jayananda, he keeps forgetting Gayatri. What is this? He's meant to be a Brahmin. He's not a Brahmin. This is no good. And Prabhupada really didn't appreciate it because Prabhupada really appreciated Jayananda. So Prabhupada said to to Tamal Krishna Goswami, actually Jayananda Prabhu is so sincere, he can chant anything and Krishna will accept it. Yeah, right. So, maybe it's off the point, but nice story. So the thing is, if we're in a humble state of mind and we really want to be improved, then we'll be able to accept criticism and we'll be able to understand what is useful and applicable and how I could use it, and what is just sort of the person flying off the handle of it and getting carried away, which definitely happens. Yeah, and in that way, taking shelter of Krishna, we'll be protected from excessive or destructive criticism. But if we're really, who's sensitive about criticism is Devasamuni. You heard of him? He's this Vedic sage He's not exactly a devotee, but he's Vedic, he's very knowledgeable, and he knows about Krishna to some degree, but he's into other things also. And interesting point, I mentioned there are 21 of these demons, or like Lord Brahma, Lord Indra, Govardhan, they're not Brahma demons, but these 21 people who Krishna chastises or kills or corrects or whatever. So I forget the exact number out of 21, but it's something like 9 of them became demons because they were cursed by Devasa Muni, because he's oversensitive. He's oversensitive, and people do something insignificant, and he just takes it as an offense. Wow. And then he curses. Right. Like Maharaj Ambarish, you probably know the story. He didn't eat anything, he just drank water. But before his guest ate, which is, is okay, you can do that. But Devasa Muni was offended by it and tried to kill him just for drinking like a cup of water. Imagine if Maharaj Ambarish had stolen his samosa. Wow. He would have probably cursed him to die on the spot. Well, he actually, young boy came with scissors, and Devasa Muni's got like wild hair. And this boy decided, as a joke, let me cut off some of his hair. Ha ha ha, that sort of thing. But then Devasa Muni is meditating away, but he felt it. And so he came back to his own consciousness, and he cursed the boy. You become a crocodile. You like cutting. You become a crocodile. And the boy apologized and threw himself at his feet. And Devasa Muni said, all right, I will modify the curse, that later on, in Kali Yuga, this is a few million years later, in Kali Yuga, the Supreme Lord will come and deliver you from this curse. And yes, Lord Chaitanya came. There's a famous story how he delivered the crocodile, who then turned back into the young boy. Yeah, so Devasa Muni is like that. He curses very easily. And therefore we sometimes refer to him as a serial curser. Yeah. And there's another story, I think I can't have told this story yet. But Srimati Radharani, this is out by, sort of between Yavat and Nandagram near Tirkadamba. Are you familiar with that area? Anyway, it's a nice area in Brajmandala. So Radharani and the Sakis and Mancharis, they're out there and they're just, having a nice time together. And who should come to Devasa Muni? And it was a hot day, and Devasa Muni was very hungry. So he asked the gopis, Radharani and the gopis, could you please give me something to eat? And they said, well, you know the story. Anyway, yeah, I'm hungry, can you give me something to eat? And the gopis said, well, we don't actually have anything, but let us run home and we'll get loads of prasadam. We'll be back in 15, 20 minutes. You can have a feast. The palm of one hand, and she has a little bottle of Yamuna water. She poured some of the Yamuna water into the dust and mixed it up and made like a mud cookie sort of thing. And she said to him, "Here, eat this." And Devasumuni looked at it like, "What are you? You're not serious." But the other gopi said, "No, she's very clever. Try it. So he was so desperate that he took it, and he took like a nibble, just a tiny nibble. But it tasted so nice, he couldn't believe it. So he ate the whole thing. Then he said, "Could I have another one, please?" And so he had a whole feast of mud cookies made by Srimati Radharani. And then he blessed her, gave her 2 blessings. Whatever you cook will taste like nectar. And whoever eats your cooking will never become sick. Which is the case anyway, because she's Srimati Radharani. She doesn't need Vasamuni's blessing for that. But when Mother Yashoda heard that she'd been blessed like that, she arranged that Radharani come every day, twice a day, to cook for Krishna. Which she does, yes. And twice a day she cooks. And she has never cooked the same preparation twice. I know you're all, particularly the ladies here. I mean, actually, gentlemen, I'm sure you're aware, men are the best cooks, actually. But anyway, that's all right. It's just a joke. But you're all good cooks, and I have had a certain amount of experience with you, so I'm aware of that. But to not cook the same preparation twice, ever, over many years and thousands of years and millions of years maybe. We're talking about something in another dimension altogether. But that's Srimati Radharani. Yeah, so anyway, sensitivity, we don't want to be insensitive. And just like, particularly if a devotee is in distress, then we just too bad, it's your karma, tough luck, something like that. We don't want to be like that. We should help devotees when they're in distress. We definitely don't want to be insensitive, it's sort of a subtle subject actually. But it's there, and it's a subject we have to kind of, get into and learn how to deal with, or start learning how to deal with it. But we don't want to be oversensitive, like the Vasamuni. Yeah. Because then, like the Vasamuni, we'll commit offenses in the name of, they hurt my feelings, that sort of thing. We will commit offenses, and that will not be good. Yeah. So anyway, that's one. What's the time? Oh, okay.
Sorry. I just want to ask 2-part question.
Mm-hmm.
One is, how do you find out how many of these anarthas you have, and then how do you remove them from yourself?
Okay. Yes, well, we do the whole seminar, we go into all these subjects, different aspects. The thing is, some of them, when you just read the list, some of them you'll know, that, well, gosh, that's me. Or, it's something, I'm something like that. Or maybe that really is me. So if that's the case, if you identify one or a few even, that you feel that you're really like that, then you should take the seminar, because then we go through all of them and explain different things that you can do. Yeah. Yes. So, we should pray to Krishna. There are different things we can do. One thing we must do when we've identified that I am like, whatever it is, then we should pray to Krishna. Please give me the intelligence to understand my position in this regard and to understand what I can do to help myself. Then we can also, if you have a computer with Prabhupada's books on it, or a telephone even, and you should know, if you don't know, that Prabhupada's books and conversations and morning walks and just everything that is known to exist is available free of charge. You just download it. The latest version came out a few weeks ago, Database 25, and it's free. So then you can do research, put in, whatever it is. If it's oversensitivity, you can put that in and see the things that come up. And you'll find some really good suggestions. Prabhupada makes the most amazing suggestions. Sure, it's incredible. And if you have, it may be that the system's not really developed yet, but if you have like a mentor, if you have a mentor system, counselor system, and if you actually have a mentor or a counselor, you can go and discuss it with him or her. Yeah, and get insights, how to understand these things and how to deal with them. Yeah. But one point which is made by Bhaktivinoda, this list comes from Bhaktivinoda Thakur actually. Yeah. He makes the point that, at least to some degree, simply studying the particular pastime which is connected with a particular nada, just by hearing the pastime, it will help to free you from that particular nada. So in other words, there's a combination, there's a number of things which you can draw on, which will help. How does that sound? Yes. And, if you're prone, or if you have in the past criticized, being sort of, because some people are like that, the gossipers, I remember once in Bhaktivedanta, long ago in the 70s, one devotee early in the morning told me this story. Did you hear about such and such Das, brahmacharis? Did you hear? And told me this rather lurid story that such and such Das had been up to some nonsense. Later in the day, like in the early evening, someone came to me and said, did you hear about, it was not even the right name, it was, someone, and he did this and this and this, and I recognized this is sort of not exactly the same story, but it's approximately. It was actually the same story. But the problem when the disciplic succession is invalid, and the story gets transformed. And I understood this is the same stupid story, but it's become embellished and changed and twisted, and it's been doing the rounds. Yes. So, but anyway, the thing is, if we have, when it comes to specifically this point of critical talk and like just sort of irresponsible critical talk, like gossip, it's not like dealing with fact. It's just some gossip and trying to drag someone down. Then if we have been involved in something like that at all, then one of the best things we can do is start doing the opposite consciously. Go around and, there's a book actually, you might have, by a guy I think called Blanchard, one of these business guru type people. Catch them doing something right. You heard about that? Instead of catch them doing something wrong, catch them doing something right. And then express appreciation for it. So when we do the seminar, I advise the devotees that you must, from now on, every week, you must catch someone, devotee, doing something right and express appreciation. And it really helps. And numerous devotees came back and told me, wow, this is revolutionary. Yeah, I've become so happy, and my relationships have improved so much because they express genuine appreciation. They're watching the devotees to see what they're doing nicely. If it's, Didati Pratigrinati, Gunamakati Prichiti, practicing those activities with other devotees, then you and the sort of the world you're living in becomes very happy and joyful. Hare Krishna. Am I keeping you up past your bedtime? I'm keeping me up past my bedtime. Okay, so there you go, devotees. Anyone else? Because you know what they told me? They told me the devotees in, Gabarone? He told me the devotees in Gabarone. Gabarone? Yeah. They told me the devotees in Gabarone are extremely intelligent. And extremely interested to find out. And what was the last little bit?
If you genuinely feel, or you've been told by many people, that there's the criticism is wrong about how do we deal with devotees criticizing us? How should we accept that?
Wrongly.
Yeah.
Wrongly. Well, it depends, but there are different ways of approaching many of these situations. But one way is that to take gold from a dirty place. I'm sure you know the story. Prabhupada had a mild stroke. I think it's when he ended up in hospital, first time in America. It was Memorial Day, which in America is a national holiday. And Prabhupada is obviously, quite ill. So the devotees tried to find a doctor, but they couldn't find a doctor. And you know the story. But they found a doctor, but he was drunk. because it was, one of those days where people drink. So anyway, the fellow came in, and I don't know, he probably used his stethoscope and, a couple of little initial things that doctors do. And they said, there's nothing wrong with him. He just needs some exercise. He's not getting enough exercise. And off he went. And it was completely wrong. It was inaccurate. And the situation was dangerous. But still, Prabhupada took from that he needs to get more exercise. And so he started his program of morning walk, which then became, his standard program every day, basically every day. Yeah, so he would get exercise. So, one way of looking at such a situation is trying to take some gold from a dirty place and, look at the criticism and see what could I learn, because there must be something you can learn from it. It's very unlikely that there's nothing you can learn from it. And first of all, to see what you can learn from it. But then, if the person is kind of persistent and aggressive, like that, and, when you think about what they say, you see that actually this is not true. Then the next thing would be, sort of strictly speaking, the way things are meant to be dealt with, would be to take it to either sit down with the person yourself and say, look, you're saying this and that, but it's not really like that. But if that's not possible, which is quite possible, then to take it up with higher authority, or if not higher authority, but someone who's capable of mediating. Because we, maybe not here, in fact I think not here, but in the ISKCON world, we have some expert mediators, incredible mediators. Just absolutely amazing mediators. And some devotees who got mediated told me personally that, I had a thing with this other devotee, and it was so bad, we could not be in the same room together. We couldn't. But then the mediation took place, and now we're actually genuine friends. So these things can be done. But at least with some assistance, the situation can be sort of taken under control, like this. Yeah. And there was something, let me tell you another little Prabhupada story, which I'm sure you haven't heard. This is actually from, would you believe, Harikesh Prabhu, who, anyway, in his day, he did very good service for Prabhupada. Later on, went off the rails. But he told me personally, in 1978, early 1978, he came to England, and we did a series of programs around England, and I was driving him and he was talking to me. And he told me of an experience with Prabhupada, that every day Prabhupada would chastise him for doing something wrong. But some days he had not done that wrong thing. Someone else had done the wrong thing. But he got chastised for supposedly doing as if he had done the wrong thing. And Prabhupada really got into it. So anyway, Harry Keshru decided next time, and after this had happened for a while, next time I'm going to tell Prabhupada, the true Prabhupada, you know, excuse me for saying, but it wasn't actually me who did that. It was whoever, someone else. So he did that next time. And he said nicely, he said, Prabhupada, you know, actually it was not me who messed up this. It was such and such. And Prabhupada said, I know. And Prabhupada said, I'm just trying to break your false ego. Now, I don't think any of us really should take up a program of breaking someone's false ego like that, because we're not on Prabhupada's level. But it's just an interesting thing. Prabhupada was apparently attacking him. Yeah. Because Hari Kesh, he would get a bit uppity with Prabhupada. Yeah. And I'm sorry, devotees, please don't curse me for keeping you up late. But we'll do our abbreviated seminar about devotee relationships tomorrow. Actually, it's a very nice seminar. It's really nice. And I've done it a number of times. The inspiration for it came from Mahatma Prabhu, who is an expert, best in ISKCON, with these types of improved self-improvement seminars. So it's a really good one. And there's a really nice story which we tell about the unknowing offense of Rupa Goswami. And it's a good one. It's a really good one. So please come along, what? 5:30. Yeah?
We could, could people come at 5?
Yes.
Oh, hands up who would come at 5? Oh. So maybe 5:30 is okay, right?
Maybe 5:30. So do try to be here at 5:30, otherwise you'll miss some part of it. And, you know, one thing with seminars is one should feel, if I come on time, I'm late. If I come on time, I'm late. And you know, Ravi Shankar, not the sort of quasi-guru, but the sitar player, late sitar player, he would, when he did a concert, when the time came, concert starts 8 o'clock, he would have the doors locked, and but he wouldn't let anyone in. Even if they paid, you know, they had a paid ticket. No, we will not do that. You don't have paid tickets anyway, so. Yeah, but please try to be here at 5:30.